Hey artsy friends, welcome to my second composition notebook art journal series. This is part 17. I'm going to do a page all in black and white. So I am going to use primarily markers today. So I'm going to double up my pages by gluing them with a glue stick on both sides. So that just creates a little more stability. I am gluing as I go this time because some of the pages don't really require it. If I'm going to end up putting a whole layer of collage or some kind of paper or something that will offer stability anyway. So I'm just kind of just doing it as I go along. So I very quickly realized that I am just going to bleed my Posca marker dry if I use, because I want to make some thick lines and some thin lines and all kinds of lines. And so I am just going to use black acrylic paint, which Posca markers are just paint in a marker form. So I'm not really changing my, what's the word I'm looking for? Medium. I'm just applying it in a different way. I'm applying it with a brush instead of a marker. So black is black. I think there might be a slight difference in the gloss or matteness, but I figured it was close enough. Someone asked me recently if I was an art major or if I had any training. I have not. I actually consider myself a complete hack. So there's just so many amazing people out there. But I've come to realize that we all, for the most part, have a hard time believing in ourselves. Oh, I'm not a real artist. Oh, I'm not a real this or a real that. But you know what? We all are, because we are all creative human beings. And so at whatever level of skill we have, we can create. We don't need to audition to be an artist. We just can be one. We can just choose to be an artist by simply acting out creatively. And that doesn't even have to be visually. It can be musically, or perhaps the culinary arts. If you love to cook, you're an artist. There's a lot of different kinds of art. Even with words, some people are so good with communication. They just have a way of articulating things in a way that just gets their message across beautifully and skillfully. So we're all creative in some way. Sometimes it's really helpful when we're trying to tap into that creativity and unlock that kind of inner creative muscle within us to have some kind of a catalyst, some inspirational piece, or something to imitate. And I have always said, and I'll say it again, that you are always, always, always welcome to borrow or imitate any ideas that you find in my videos. Sometimes I borrow them from other people, and I try to always give credit when I do that. And if you're just playing around, go crazy. You can. So there's inspiration, and then there's a copycat page. So if you decide hey, I love what Erin's doing here, I'm just gonna follow her example step by step and make a page almost the same, just to build confidence and to not have to make any decisions. That's totally fine too. So, but if you post it on social media, I would love it if you would just give me a little shout out so people could find that. Yeah, that's kind of polite creative etiquette. So anyway, so what I'm doing is just varying my widths, and but I'm curving everything. I don't want anything to have any sharp angles. So they're mostly rectangular at this point. And I'm just making up as I go. So the paintbrush kind of left some uneven edges. So I'm going in with my marker to smooth out those edges. It is a lot easier with a grid paper background to smooth out the edges, because I have the lines as reference points to make it nice and smooth. It's funny, I thought this video was going to be super fast because I'm not using a lot of varying media. It's not really I don't even know if I could technically call it mixed media, because it's more of just a doodle. Because I think technically mixed media is when you combine at least two different medium. So I'm really just using black acrylic paint, black and white Posca markers, and then a white gel pen. So that's all I'm using on this entire page. When I started, I actually thought that I was going to fill in some of the spaces with some color. But once I got to the point where I was ready to start doing that, I just could not bring myself to do it. I don't know. I've done this before where I've started with black and white and wanted or considered leaving it that way and colored it in, and then I kind of regretted it. I don't know. So I just wanted to do a complete black and white doodle page. Yeah. So as I'm making marks and designs, sometimes I'm going through them, and sometimes I'm going around them so that it looks like things are going under and over. It kind of gives it almost a urban feel is how I would describe it. So I feel like if I'm looking down either from the top of a city or maybe in the walls, like where all your plumbing is, and there's just pipes going in different directions, and I don't know, but it's fun. And I also get that like 70s retro vibe because they did a lot of like curved angles. And even making like these little half circles is really helps to have that grid. So that's why I'm able to make them like so almost perfectly, because I have little, I line them up with the squares, and I'm like, oh, one square out and it has to touch the top of that square. So anyway, so if you wanted to do a page like this, grab some graph paper because that'll really help. And I think it adds to the geometric feel of having that in the background. So I kind of like that. Yeah, that's one fun thing about doing this composition art journal as opposed to my last one, which was just a lined paper. So yeah. Okay, if you're still with me, I took a break. This is actually the next day, and now I am just going to start with all my white markers, starting with a Jelly Roll pen. I'm going to follow basically the same kind of technique in varying my line widths, and so I'm just kind of adding little details to especially my big black spaces. That was kind of the plan all along, was to have everything in the end be very detailed. So I'm adding a little bit of pattern to it with these little archy bumps. Well, there it is, my friends. I hope you enjoyed watching my process and hanging out with me today. Hope you come back and hang out with me again. Have a blessed day.